Tonight on Philly Sports Spotlight, a longtime Philly sports fan has had enough and he can't take it anymore. So he's published a book titled A Snowball's Chance, Philly Fires Back at the National Media. We'll meet the author and talk about what really happened the day they booed Santa. Hello there once again and welcome to Philly Sports Spotlight. I'm Phil Andrews, and tonight we dig deeper into some of the myths that have been placed on Philly sports fans by those who live outside our cone of comfort, more specifically the national media, dastardly national media. And we will accomplish that feat tonight by talking to the author of this book, A Snowball's Chance, Philly Fires Back at the National Media, and the title alone should give you a hint of where we're going to jump off. With that said, we give a warm Philly Sports Spotlight welcome to the author of that book, Joe Valley Jr., and his dad, Joe Sr., who's also contributed to the book. We're going to hear more about how you contributed to the book later in the show. But gentlemen, thank you for coming on our show, because I know that you had some issues with the book. Everything's straightened out now.
Everything is straightened out.
And I got to tell you, fun reading. I had my son kind of taking a peek at it the other day.
Oh, really?
My 12-year-old. So, yeah.
That's great.
But let's just talk about this. I mean, sure. Philadelphia has always been known as the town of booze.
No.
And
no,
the thing that,
Phil,
you know, and I think in your book, Ray Didinger said it best. Lazy reporting, lazy journalism by the national media, because once it's out there, every single guy who comes into Philadelphia uses that, oh, they once booed Santa thing. Let's talk about how you use that as the impetus for the title of your book.
Well, actually, I have to give my friend Ryan Downs, also one of the co-authors who I met at St. Joe's, credit for that. He came up with the title of the book, and it stuck out. It's just one of those things where you know you had the title, it was just there, and we said, you know what, we've got to go with this. And of course we're going to talk about Santa Claus anyway, because like you said, that's the #1 misconception that Philadelphia fans have. You know, you hear it all the time. In any article on the internet, if something bad happens in the realm of Philadelphia sports and fans, remember, they booed Santa. Remember, they threw snowballs at Santa Claus. So we were going to use that anyway as one of the chapters. But in order to do that, we had to get the man who, you know, who's carried this stereotype, who, you know, he's the guy who launched this myth unwillingly, unknowingly.
Well, it just so happens we were able to dig and dig and dig and find some video from 1968. Actually, not video.
Really?
We made it video. It's a picture. Let's take a look right here.
Wow.
Okay, apparently it was a really cold day.
Very cold.
And the Eagles were not good that year.
They stunk.
There's your boy right there.
There he is, Frank Oliva.
Frank Oliva, okay? We colorized him so you knew who Santa was. No, just kidding.
I never would have known otherwise.
But here's a guy that, you know, here's a guy that, you know, he was just at the game that day. So I think he was 19 at the time. He was just at the game because it's something he did every year. He dressed up as Santa. The original Santa, what happened?
Well, there was a snowstorm that weekend. And the gentleman who I believe they used for Santa Claus was in Atlantic City, and he couldn't make it out to Franklin Field. So they saw him in the stands before the game. They said, hey, at halftime, we need you to walk down the field. Would you like to partake? He said, sure, why not? And he found out. The rest is history,
Little
I guess.
did Frank know what he was in for that day. And, you know, 1968 is a long time ago. But yet it's this incident that Philly fans always get vilified, booing Santa Claus because Santa's Santa. You know what I mean? But there was a lot more to it. I mean, it was just the team was awful. It was a cold, cold day. And he was just in, let's say, the wrong place at the wrong time,
Absolutely.
so to speak. Now, so that's some unwanted attention by this young man.
Sure.
Who was young at the time. Moved forward some 40-something years. Here's Frank Oliva today. This is what he looks like today. Right? You know this guy, right? Look at this. He's really eating this up now.
He loves it. He loves it. And it's funny too, Phil, because when we tried to contact Frank, I didn't know how he was going to handle me.
Sure.
I didn't know how he was going to handle this attention. There you are, yeah, at the book signing in December. But you know what? He welcomed me with open arms. He's a comedian, like I said. He likes the attention. He welcomes it. And he told me, he said, sure, I love this idea. Absolutely. Write some questions down and let's set up a time. And I was on the phone with him for probably 2 hours. Nicest guy.
Well, not only does he welcome, look at this. Here's a picture of him.
He signed my book, too.
He signed your book?
He did, absolutely.
Okay, so he's a celebrity. He's celebrity non grata.
Sure.
Yeah, well, good for him. So hopefully you shed a little bit of better light on Frank, because, you know, people don't know who he is outside of Philadelphia, except unless you've seen the pieces that have been aired on national television. But gosh, I remember before I came to Philadelphia, oh, it's a tough place to play and a tough place to work and all that stuff. I love Philadelphia. I'm like a segment in your book that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Someone who came to Philadelphia and ended up staying here in the area. Now, earlier in this segment, we had a little picture of Santa actually getting snowballs thrown at him. What I love about the book, each chapter is broken down with drawings that were done by a student from where?
Yes, Caitlin Brown. She is an art student at Temple. She interned, and there you go. Philly fans boo anything and everything. That's a takeoff of Bob Uecker, who said Philly fans go to the airport and they boo bad landings.
Oh, I thought that maybe that was like the Dallas plane going back to Dallas, and they were booing Dallas.
It could be.
That's just a bad takeoff. Is that what that is? That's your interpretation of that?
It's a bad takeoff. Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that this book, it's not just straight. I mean, that adds some character to this book. Those little pictures, and folks, when you go out and purchase your copy, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Do Philly fans boo everything?
I think it depends, and it's really funny. I'm the one who wrote that chapter. And originally, I was just going to go on my soapbox about why they boo and what have you. But then Larry Boa came into the picture, and we interviewed Larry for the book, part of the Athletes Who Stayed section. And it just came in one of the questions that I asked him. I said about booing and whatnot, and he said, you know what? When I was managing the Phillies, if somebody popped up with the bases loaded, or the team was struggling, I would tell them, you know what, it might not necessarily be the fact that they don't like you and they're booing you. The team could struggle. The team's not scoring any runs. There's a lot of venom and anger and bitterness in a lot of those boos because it goes back a long way. We don't win a lot in Philadelphia. We're the fourth biggest sports market in the country. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, and there you go.
Was that your mom?
I think it was. I think it was. I don't think my mom's ever been to an Eagles game.
No, but here's the thing. You're looking at this video, it's old-time video, and now you're seeing the more current-day video. It just goes to show you what you're talking about is true. It goes all the way back. And folks, it's because Philadelphia sports fans are passionate. They want to have what everyone else has. They're the only football team in their division who has not won a Super Bowl. And the other teams and the other teams have won multiple. That's why it was such a big deal when the Phillies, won the World Series. The people that came out for that parade was something. Now, one of the other things that the national media has made Philadelphia for, as we take another look at one of the great drawings that's in the book, is this. I love this picture. Philly fans hated Donovan McNabb from day one. Before you talk about the whole Donovan McNabb issue, let's hit the rewind button and see what happened that day back in New York.
The second pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Donovan McNabb, quarterback, Syracuse University.
Now, as we come back to set, you saw the Daily News cover there. They were booing because there was this big impetus for the Eagles to pick Ricky Williams out of Texas. And when they didn't get the guy they wanted, they were booing the pick, right? Not number 5 out of Syracuse.
Correct. Because here's the other thing, Phil, that a lot of people don't talk about. In the annals of Philadelphia sports history, there's been some bad moves. There's been some bad trades, particularly with the Sixers and the Phillies.
Sure.
But what people don't talk about are the ones they got right. And the Ricky Williams circus, that wouldn't fly in Philadelphia. that never would have worked in Philadelphia.
Well, the thing is that whole Donovan McNabb thing, if you're another athlete outside looking in, you're like, why would I want to go and play there? And that's another myth about Philly. That's a tough place to play. You agree or disagree with that? I love this. The two Philly cops sitting in the opposing dugout. I don't know. It looks like a St. Louis Cardinals uniform.
It should be.
Yeah, talk about that. I mean, is it really a tough place to play?
I think it is, and it isn't depending on who you are. I think if you go, for example, the 1993 Phillies, there's only one player on that team with legitimate Hall of Fame credentials, Curt Schilling. The rest of the guys weren't. Philadelphia loved that team. Larry Anderson said in the book, they played baseball the blue-collar way, and everybody could relate to it. And if you go all out and you work hard, you can be a marginal player, and they will still appreciate you in this town.
Well, we got a guy coming up later in this show who actually played for 2 football teams in this town. He's going to tell you why they never booed him. Because they won. Now listen, let's bring your dad back in. Let's bring Joe Sr., Joe Valley Sr. back into the mix. And the reason why you're here today is because I know you're proud of your son for his efforts.
Absolutely.
But hey, listen, Dad, you contributed to this book, and I was very great, huh?
Absolutely.
You contributed some of the black and white pictures to this book. You got pictures of the early 73. Yeah.
Yes.
How'd you get those pictures?
Well, I worked back in those days. I worked for a local paper in the area, so I went to.
There's the captain, Bobby Clark.
Yes, indeed. I went to the old Spectrum. I had 2 cameras, a little stool, had my ticket, went in, went right down to the glass partition, put the stool down, and shot all night. And there were guys from the Bulletin at the time, Philadelphia Inquirer, and nobody said a word.
Well,
nobody questioned anything.
You got two pictures there of two of the most famous Philadelphia Flyers there, Bobby Clark and then Bernie Perrant.
Yes.
And then there's this picture. Dude, how Charles Barkley, was he about 12 in that picture? I mean, where did you get that picture from? Look how young Charles looks in this picture. And then, of course, the esteemed Dr. J. Julius Irving.
The Philadelphia Sports Writers had their annual dinner in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and after the program was over, Dan Baker, who was the announcer for the Philadelphia Phillies, stadium announcer for the Phillies, had a little party up on the 5th floor, and Charles was invited. And Charles came up and just meandered around, was watching some basketball in one of the back rooms. In fact, he even asked my son to go out and get him a beer.
Give me a beer,
You were underage at that time, right?
Yeah,
he sure was.
Here's the thing. You said Party and Charles Barkley. They kind of go hand in hand. Mr. Valley,
Yes.
thank you very much for sharing your pictures. I mean, you've had those pictures for years, and thank you for making them part of this book. We're going to say goodbye to you for now. Thank you very much for coming by. It was a pleasure. We're going to keep your son, if you don't mind, on the set because we've got another esteemed Philadelphian coming up next who also contributed to the book. You might know him. His name is Billy Vargas, former Fox sportscaster.
I do know Billy Vargas. Actually, his name is on the book.
His name is on the book.
Yeah.
My name is not on that book, but that's okay. I enjoy reading it. When we come back, we will talk to Billy Vargas, the former Fox sportscaster, and he's going to tell us about the brilliance of one Andy Reid. Stay tuned.